All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And like in any offseason, when the trades have been made and the free agents have been signed and the draft picks have been drafted, there's always that moment that leaves you with, okay, now the dust has settled. And what are the burning questions that are left? And that's what we will answer 5 of them right now on a Locked On Avalanche.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Send questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, and follow us over on our YouTube channel. Over on YouTube, hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and definitely subscribe to our subtext. Link to that is in the show notes below. Subscribe and chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. All right, we have our rundown over there on YouTube, and yeah, we're going to get to those are 3 of the questions we will be answering. I always like doing this because it's kind of like you're looking ahead and you're kind of not making predictions, but you're kind of looking at where the team stands, where they need to go, and everything kind of in between.
Yeah, it's almost like that moment right after Christmas. Like you get all of your presents, you opened everything, the bliss is over, and you're sitting there and you're like, now what?
Now what? This is that like that 1, sometimes 2-week period that you had off from school. Yep. If the holidays lined up right, you got the full 2 weeks off, which was always the best. But this is just over like 2 months now that we have.
This is 2 months of December 26th.
Pretty much. And back then, like when you got your Christmas presents, like you didn't have, text messaging or Twitter or social media to brag to your friends what you got. You had to wait 2 weeks to bring it into school. That was the worst. So
you didn't even get to play with it. You had to go to family first.
That's so right.
You'd open it and just leave it and then go.
Yes. Oh, the horrors of being
back in my
youngling. Day. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, and I do want to mention to people that we are going down to 3 days a week until probably mid-September, I would say. So we'll be doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows. And the Fridays will still be our Locked On road trip. Think we have Chicago and the Blackhawks lined up for this week. I think we're working on that now.
Nothing but Blues Brothers questions.
Yeah, nothing else happened really in Chicago. Yeah, right. But where we're going to start is with our team. And like I said, get to some of the interesting questions surrounding the Colorado Avalanche this offseason heading into next year. And why don't we start with what's been going on and signings and trades and even the draft picks. So there's our first question. Will the new acquisitions make a big enough difference? And when we say big enough difference, that's, to improve upon what they did last year, which was obviously that first round exit. You don't want that again. So you knew changes were going to be made. We saw the writing on the wall for that. That's exactly what has happened. You don't think that they're done making it, but what they've done so far and who they've got, does it move the needle for them to improve upon what they did last year?
I think the biggest thing the Avalanche did with these acquisitions is they bought themselves a little bit of peace of mind. Last year was if they could step up to this role, if we could just get this out of JT Compher, if we could just get this out of Alex Newhook, they acquired a lot of no guessing. Like, what you're getting out of Miles Wood. You know what you're getting out of Ryan Johansson. What you if all the everydayers that just listened to Friday's episode with Adam Dinker, Locked On Lightning, you now know what you're getting out of Ross Colton. And you don't know what you're getting out of Jonathan Drouin, but you know the potential. So there's a lot of peace of mind there where you plug that player in, you know what they are capable of. Where last year you kept hoping and praying and making every sacrifice to the hockey gods you possibly could for Alex Newhook to please score a goal.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all well said. But I think a lot of this is we'll have to see. I really like the Ryan Johansson move.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an excellent move. I think he really, some people are still kind of iffy on him, and they don't like what he did in Nashville the past year, maybe year plus. I think the Avalanche are pretty convinced that no, like he can be the guy that we need him to be. And I do. I'm fully in on Ryan Johansson. Everybody else, maybe not Ross Colton. I do like that move too. I think those two moves are the two that we're going to say like those were very solid, sound moves that worked very well for the Avalanche. The other ones, I like them. I like the moves, but I don't know if I like them being in the position that the Avalanche are in this win now. Every year is a cup year. That's the expectation. When you're in that mode, I don't want and I think I had said that on an earlier show. Like, I don't want those, well, let's just hope this works type of moves. And I don't feel like you had to go that way when you're looking at what some of these other guys signed for that I feel are more like definites.
Mm-hmm.
And not the question marks that Drouin and to a lesser extent Miles Wood. I like Miles Wood. I think he can come in and do a very good job with the Avalanche. And he's a big body. He throws his weight around. Like, that's what they want to do. I think for that aspect, he's going to solve a need and solve a problem on those depth lines. But in looking at the big picture, I think they could have gotten, at least for those two players, two different guys that could have done what they hope that Drouin and Wood can do and not have the question marks surrounding them.
Yeah, you see, like, I'm kind of flipped of that. Like, the two, like the Johansson and Colton moves are so no-brainer. It's almost like when we acquired Lehkonen and Brendan Saad. Like, you're just like, oh, that's going to work. And they just click, and they did.
Right. Yeah.
And with Miles Wood and Jonathan Drouin, you are kind of approaching it like, oh, I know what they can do, but with the Avalanche, they could do so much more that I think you have not been able to see yet. And I think that really excites me.
Yeah. I mean, there is excitement around that. Like, I always like, reclamation projects and grabbing that guy that just didn't seem to work. And I think that's what Montreal is going through right now with Alex Newhook. Like, they have excitement. But they have excitement around him. They're saying, like, we don't feel like he was used properly in Colorado. We think that we can use him the right way. And kind of the same is being said for Drouin with the Avalanche. I like seeing that stuff. But like I said earlier, just the position the Avalanche are in, do you want that right now? If everything was okay and everything else on the team is shored up and everybody's kind of locked into their roles, and he needed to be a fourth line guy. I'm not saying he's a fourth line player. I'm just saying his talent is above a fourth line. But if that's all you needed was the reclamation project to be a fourth line or a bottom six guy, okay, I'd be a little bit more okay with it. But we're doing, line combinations and putting him on the first or second line.
Yeah.
And we better be sure about that if he's coming in and we're expecting him to be what he can be. You know what I mean?
I think there's the first 2 weeks of the season are going to be a fascinating runway to see where this team's going to take off.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah. Because I think if he doesn't, especially Drouin, like if he doesn't, drop the hammer right off the bat, it'll be unfair to him because it's a long season.
Yeah.
It's a long season. So let the guy get into the flow of things. He's on a brand new team. Sometimes that stuff takes time, but I think there's going to be a handful of fans who are going to be like, nope, not working. Nope, get him out and like send him down. Like, no, I'm going to give it some time. Absolutely. So we'll see. All right. Let us hear from FanDuel and then we'll jump back into, some of these other questions. But with FanDuel, you can take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel, and you can get 10 times your first bet back in bonus bets. That's up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, and you get that win or lose. And win is something the Colorado Rockies did. Wow. I mean, I'm not saying the Yankees are struggling, but whenever the Rockies are struggling a little bit more, and they took 2 out of 3. I mean, it's just the All-Star break. It's
Yeah.
from the All-Star break on. They're a team to the Colorado Rockies are maybe one of the best teams in the league since the All-Star break.
You know what? As a Braves fan, thank you, Rockies. Thank you for defeating the Yankees.
That's true. Yes. Those were some good matchups back in the day. Yes. So you can do all of this on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. I was using FanDuel, no kidding, a lot over the weekend with the Saratoga racetrack opening up. And some ponies here and there, something that's kind of fun. And honestly, it was very, very simple and easy to do and really good info. You can dive deep with like the horses and stuff, or just the basic stuff, which is right there, right at your fingertips. It's pretty cool to use.
You sound like Eric Johnson.
Yeah, I am Eric Johnson. I didn't know if you knew that. Yeah. Surprise.
I never knew.
Surprise for everybody. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, it's the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Jumping back into our questions here, kind of playing off that first one too about will the acquisitions make a big enough difference? Did the Avalanche do enough to address their big needs? And pretty much the big needs, 2C was the glaring one, got that one right out of the way. Like that was their first move, did it. And then it was, okay, who do we sign? Who's our free agents? We do need some depth help. It's not done yet. You still have to sign Ross Cole, and that'll get done. You still have to sign Ben Myers. That'll get done. But there's still a couple holes here and there. Outside of that, which we assume will get done, do you feel like they addressed the big needs?
I feel like that Ryan Johansson move immediately made it feel like, oh, this team is whole. Like it wasn't just go out there and sign random guy. Ben Lumber doesn't exist, but it's just, those little pieces that the Avalanche like to put in there, like your Abe Kubels and your Belmars, just to, put them together, put a roster together. No, they went out and they swung for the fences and they grabbed that 2C and it was done. There's our need. And everything else from there is kind of just a little bonus, like an extra, like a home run trot. And you feel really good. I feel like they addressed the needs and we're just kind of playing with house money. Like we're talking fourth line here. Like,
and I think sometimes like we maybe lose sight of that stuff. Like the things that the Avalanche are doing are tweaks here and there. You know what I mean? They're not, you don't need this wholesale revamping. You have, and so when they do this stuff, it's not like, it doesn't make the headlines. It's not like the sexy signings and stuff like that, because what they have is what every team wants. Exactly. And that is superstars at the top of your lineup, offensively and defensively. And it didn't work last year. And what they're doing is just these little moves here and there. And for like some of the fan base, it's like, no, it's not good enough for me. I want a bigger signing. And I'm like that sometimes too. But they look at it at a different way. They look at it as like, we got Makar, we got McKinnon, we got Mikko, we got Nichushkin, we got Lehkonen. We don't need to keep doing like we're fine. And you find the right mixtures and the right guys, and off to the races you go, hopefully.
That's I completely agree with you. I love seeing that like on Twitter or Threads now, where you see people say, I wish the Avalanche would have signed somebody bigger. But it's take a step back, take off the burgundy and blue. We have the biggest signings in the league on the team. Like it's pieces to work around them and make them better. You don't lose. It's the forest through the trees kind of thing. Like we have Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. We're fine.
Right. And that's why I say, like, this is obviously a playoff team. They're still at the top of, things like FanDuel to be the favorites to win it all. And that's because what they have is not going anywhere. And those guys are the difference makers. Everybody else falls in line and just play your role. And this team should be fine. So, I think they did. You can not like the moves that they make, or they made, but they did the proper moves. And I love that they did the Johansson deal right off the bat.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because if we're still sitting here right now and it wasn't addressed, we are having a completely different show right now.
Yep.
But I'm comfortable enough with him to be there and to improve upon what he's done in Nashville. Didn't have the best of years last year, but I think, being on a different team and just, I think he's ready to go. I do.
Yep.
I think so. I do. I think they overall, I think they address the needs. I do.
Yep.
Here's a big one that whenever we throw up questions on, do mailbag questions, this comes up a lot. And we addressed it earlier, kind of around when the season was over. Or not when the season was over, when Landeskog announced that he was not going to be playing this entire season. Should the Avalanche name a temporary captain just for this 1 year, assuming he comes back the following year? And in the beginning of this, I was kind of the mind of like, no, I don't think they should. I don't. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. I'm kind of changing my tune to that as the days have gone on. And I would it be the worst thing in the world to do that? Like, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, that'd be a slap in the face to Gabe Landeskog. No, it would not. It wouldn't. We all know what Gabe Landeskog means to this team. And so much so that we all want to talk about how they missed him last year in the locker room, which is true. And how, like, the team didn't have that person that had a captain. So you can do that now. If you want to just have someone wear the C because you can rally around that person. We do it all the time with the A. If an alternate goes down, we give somebody else an A. But because it's happening this year, and because it's Gabe Landeskog, it's like everybody's hands are like, no, you can't touch that. And I get it. Like, some people think that it's like so sacred for him, but I don't think he would mind. I don't think he would care. I don't think anybody would feel like you're taking away the allure of Gabe Landeskog if you gave it to a guy for 1 year, knowing he's not going to be there at all this year.
I love how we operate. We are complete opposites of these things, because I have shifted from, like, I don't think we do. I don't think we need to put a C on anybody all year, because anybody that let's put it on Nathan McKinnon, altitude, you got microphone in the face. What do you think about being the new captain? Well, I really don't want it, and it's Gabe's. I'm just holding it. Like, you don't want that conversation. And for goodness sake, I know they don't want to go in that locker room. Who do you think's getting the C? Who do you think's getting the C? Who do you? This is Gabe Landeskog's C. It was handed to him, and in a perfect world, he's going to hand it to the next. I think this team just kind of rallies around the fact that we don't have a captain. It's bulletin board material. Like, you don't need the distraction after what you had last year. You don't need, who's going to be the Avalanche captain? No, they don't need that storyline. I think this team just kind of rallies around each other and the embarrassment of the Kraken series and says, hey, we don't need a captain. Let's win it for the captain. Let's rally around. And
it'd still be called the captain. Like, he's still, like, if someone else just held it for a year, Gabe Landeskog is still the captain. But I feel
like they're just going to like rip it off, or just not even want any of the distraction. And hockey players are superstitious. Like, you wouldn't want to, let's just say you take a step back and miss the playoffs next year. Who was the captain for that team? You don't want that. Come on.
No, and a captain is not like mandatory, right? There's a handful of teams that do not have a captain, so you don't have to do it. But I just feel like last year was different because you always thought Landeskog might come back from the initial announcement, from like the 12 weeks to it's into January, now it's into February, now it's into March. He's done. That was different than like the announcement of like, I am not playing this year. And to go 2 full seasons without one is a little bit different. Knowing that he's not going to be there, I think, is different. You don't do it last year, clearly, because you keep thinking he's going to come back. But for this year, I wouldn't be against it. I would not be against it, because that is a rally. And you could, how you're saying, like, you could rally around not having one and do it for the captain. 100% true. But I think you could still do that, rallying around him and winning it for him, even if someone else had it just for a year, knowing full well that it's just a rental.
I will preface this point by, I'm still of the camp that Gabe Landeskog has played his last game in Colorado and in the NHL, and I believe he's going to retire. But I believe this team is also under the mentality, that he will give up the C. We're not going to take it off of him.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a discussion had, like it was when it was given to him. There'll be a discussion that will be had, and how you're saying you think this is, the end of the line for him. There's other people. I'm just going to throw this out there. There's other people who think the Avalanche could go the route of the Vegas Golden Knights and Tampa Bay Lightning, and he comes.
Oh, you froze right there. But if if he comes back and just kind of like Space Jam entrance into the playoffs, just music, and then Gabe Landeskog comes out with the C that was not on anybody all year long,
right?
I will lose my mind.
Yeah, there's some people feel that, hey, could happen. Could happen for the playoffs. He comes back, and then his salary cap doesn't matter when that happens. So, I mean, that would be a moment.
Yeah,
that would be a moment. So, here's a fun one. Will the Avalanche have 3 different players hit the 100-point mark this season? Now, obviously, those 3 would be Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, and Nathan MacKinnon. 2 of those guys hit that last year. I did some quick looking up. It happened last year. The Edmonton Oilers did it just last year with Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McDavid all hitting 100 points. The last time it happened before that was 95-96 with Pittsburgh. So it doesn't happen a lot. And I don't know if it's ever happened with a defender in the mix. So I'm willing to guess. I think I saw an article where it said it's happened 14 times total. Maybe I'll look up when we're done here, those 14 times. If there's a defender, I'm willing to guess none or maybe once that it's happened with a defender. But the Avalanche have a really shot at doing this. Obviously, it revolves around staying healthy. And if it happens, it would be the first 100-point season for Cale Makar, with Mikko and Nate doing it for the first time for their own careers last year. This is a very real possibility. This could happen.
This is 5 burning questions, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you just, it's going to happen, and it's going to be Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Artturi Lehkonen.
Oh man, I don't know about that. That's a big jump in production for him to hit 100 points.
You know what?
But here's the thing, Kyle. If that happens, they could have 4.
Yes,
they could easily have 4 because Makar's in this mix.
I feel like there's going to be someone else other than the big 3 that is going to hit that also. It's just something about this roster construction. I feel like rising tide raises all ships. I feel like that's going to happen with this team, and that first line is going to just have theirself a stellar season, and the second line is going to be normal production of the first. I think it's going to be an incredible year for the Avalanche. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3 and 4 members.
That would be huge. I mean, I think a lot of it depends on power play. Right, you get a lot of points on the power play, and you could have, Lehkonen on there, even Nichushkin on there. I mean,
the new boys. You got Colton, Johansson, and Wood.
They're probably more on the second line power play, definitely. But if you can get a power play going, and that's how Edmonton did it last year. Their power play was insane. So you bring that power play down for them, and it doesn't happen. But that's easier said than done. So they could do it again this year for Edmonton, and the Avs. Yeah, I think it's a very real possibility they have 3. If someone gets hot, if Artturi Lehkonen gets hot on a power play, or even Nichushkin on a power, 4. Wow.
I just have a feeling.
Okay, you gotta get hot, and we'll end it with this one. Will Alexander Gerogiev become a top tier goalie, or be known as a top tier goalie, kind of lumped in with the Vasilevskis and Hellebucks of the world? Will he kind of be in that realm after this season? And this is like, me, going back to last year, I was a big iffy on him, and how he played last year completely turned my point of view. So, what do you think?
This question is interesting because will he become a top tier goalie? I think he is currently. It's perceptionally,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be another year or two of that same production he had in year one. And I think league wide, he'll be understood. But what I saw in net from Georgiev, he's really, really good and just has never had the opportunity or the defense in front of him to really get in there and flex his muscle. This is a perfect spot for him to hit superstardom. And then this is another contract we'll be talking about a little bit farther down the line of what do the Avalanche do in this situation.
Yeah, I think because he never had a role like he had last year with the Avs, and he did as well as he did. I look forward to everything that comes with a second year of that. Second year with the same team. Now he knows what the workload is like, and he played that well. You expect him to play that well, even better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him at a top tier right now, but he's at the next level. I mean, you have your Vasilevskis and Hellebucks, like those guys are top of the line, right? He's up there.
He's hitting that. He's right there because everybody else is falling down like Bennington, and we just had Locked On Golden Knights on here, and we were talking about the surprise of the goalie ascension that they had. It's a backup goalie.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be the same story going into next season. Eventually, your Hellebucks and Vasilevskis, that's going to be it. And then you got your next tier, and that's Georgiev.
And I think he's slotting in there. Like he's approaching that. You gotta do something in the playoffs. You have to. And I know Hellebuck really hasn't, but he he's been in the league long enough to know that he's incredible. With Vasilevsky, he's got the hardware. He's another guy that's all world. Georgiev, if you want to get propped up a little bit more, have a great regular season like you just did, and do more in the playoffs. And then we might be looking back, having a conversation like, okay, like he's keeps ascending. He's still new at this, being the guy. But so far, the early returns, if after 2 years they go far in the playoffs, you're going to have to start putting him up there.
I think he's going to hit that level of top tier status if we keep him at a full-time goalie position and not work him overtime because Francouz is hurt, and then we have JoJo to back him up, or it's
not anymore.
You can't work him.
Yeah.
You can't work him like you did last year. If you want him to stay consistent all the way through and the playoffs,
true,
he's got to have some help.
Very true. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Obviously, there's probably more questions, but those are just 5 that we pulled out. If anybody has any burning question, we'll probably do another mailbag for Wednesday's show. So check out Instagram on Tuesday. We'll put those up like Tuesday morning, and you can ask away. Those are always fun to do. But as far as these questions go, feel free, fire away down in the comments section. Will they get 3? Will they get 4? Will they get 5 100 points? I mean, let's just go
not
crazy.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
Oh, God, don't bring that up, please. All right, but that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you on Wednesday.